They laughed when he walked into the hangar, holding a rag and a bucket of soap water. To them, he was just the cleaner, just the man who wiped the dust off Millionaire toys. A nobody in dirty overalls. But that night, when the engines roared and no pilot showed up, the mocking laughter turned into silence, because the nobody they sneered at was about to show the world who he really was. The owner of the plane, a wealthy businessman, smirked as he made a cruel joke in front of his daughter and her friends. "Tell you what, if this janitor can fly my jet, I'll let him marry you." "Ha, but he'll never do it. He's just a cleaner." They all burst into laughter except the cleaner. He just stared at the gleaming jet, his jaw tight, his eyes steady. What they didn't know was that years before scrubbing floors, before polishing wheels, before hiding behind silence, he had worn a uniform. He had a license, and he had flown through storms most of them wouldn't survive. That night, in front of mocking millionaires and their spoiled friends, the man they dismissed as worthless was about to step into the cockpit. And when the truth came out, it would shake the entire hangar and change one woman's life forever. Our main character's name was Daniel Carter. Every day, Daniel showed up at the private airstrip before sunrise. He scrubbed oil stains, polished the metal wings of private jets, and emptied trash bins left behind by wealthy passengers. He was invisible. To the millionaires who strutted past him, he wasn't a man, he was just part of the background. The man with gloves and a mop. Daniel kept to himself. His co-workers only knew 3 things about him. He worked harder than anyone else. He never complained, no matter how dirty the job, and he always glanced at the skies as if longing for something. What no one knew was that Daniel's life hadn't always been like this. He once wore crisp uniforms, carried flight maps, and heard his name spoken with respect. He had been a pilot in the Air Force, decorated for courage. But after leaving the service, tragedy struck. His wife passed away unexpectedly, and with a young daughter to raise alone, Daniel gave up flying and took whatever job could keep food on the table. Years later, his daughter was grown and in college, and Daniel had buried his grief under endless work. He thought his flying days were behind him until that night when arrogance and fate collided. At the hangar, a flashy billionaire named Richard Whitmore threw a party to impress clients. His daughter Sophia was there too. Sophia was kind, different from her father, but caught in the shadow of his wealth. When Richard spotted Daniel wiping down the jet, he mocked him in front of everyone. "See this man? He cleans planes but couldn't fly one if his life depended on it. Tell you what, son, fly this jet and I'll let you marry my daughter." Everyone laughed, thinking it was just a cruel joke. But Sophia's eyes widened. She saw something in Daniel's face, something steady, unshaken. Daniel placed the rag down slowly. He could hear the laughter echoing. He could walk away, ignore the insult like he had so many times before. But this time, something in him snapped. He stepped forward. "All right," Daniel said calmly. "I'll fly it." The room went silent. Then the laughter grew louder. One of Richard's friends clutched his stomach, choking with amusement. "You, a cleaner? Don't make a fool of yourself." But Daniel didn't flinch. He looked at Sophia, then at the jet. "Give me the keys." Richard smirked, thinking he was about to humiliate him further. He tossed the access card like a game. "Fine, go ahead. But when you fail, you're fired. And my daughter won't marry a man who sweeps hangars." Daniel walked toward the cockpit. Memories flooded back. Checklists, instruments, co-pilots calling out commands. His hands trembled at first, but once he sat in that seat, everything clicked. He wasn't a cleaner anymore. He was a pilot. Richard and his guests crowded around, whispering bets on how quickly he would fail. Sophia, however, leaned forward, her heart pounding. She didn't laugh. She believed. Engines roared to life. The ground shook. And suddenly, the hangar was filled with a thunder none of them expected from a nobody. The jet lifted off the ground smoothly like a bird spreading its wings. Gasps filled the air as Daniel maneuvered with precision. Inside the cockpit, his voice was steady. "Tower, this is Captain Carter requesting clearance." The control tower responded instantly. They recognized his name. Respect laced their tone. Daniel guided the jet into the night sky. Rolls, turns, flawless execution. Every move defied the image of the ragged cleaner they thought they knew. Down below, the arrogant smiles faded. Richard's face turned pale. His daughter's eyes glistened with awe. After 30 breathtaking minutes, Daniel landed the jet smoother than any pilot for hire ever had. As the wheels kissed the runway, silence swept the hangar. When the doors opened, Daniel stepped out, not as a janitor, but as a man who had reclaimed his identity. No one laughed anymore. Richard stammered, struggling to find words. His daughter stepped forward, pride shining in her eyes. You knew all along, didn't you? She whispered. Daniel only smiled faintly. Flying never leaves you. The wealthy guests shifted uncomfortably, ashamed of their laughter. Richard tried to brush it off, but Sophia spoke firmly. Father, you mocked him. You didn't just insult a man, you insulted a hero. Daniel's past as an Air Force pilot spread quickly across the room. Whispers turned into stunned silence. This wasn't just a cleaner. This was a man who had served his country, who had sacrificed everything for his family. Sophia took Daniel's hand. If anyone here is worthy of respect, it's him. That night, dignity was restored. The world learned never to judge a man by his clothes, his job, or the dirt on his hands, because sometimes the strongest wings are hidden under the heaviest burdens. And as for Sophia, she kept her father's careless promise, not out of mockery, but out of love. Because in Daniel, she saw more than a pilot. She saw a man who rose above ridicule, who carried himself with honor, and who proved that worth is never measured in wealth. What would you do if someone mocked you for being just a cleaner? Only to discover you had a secret talent greater than their wealth?